always test your strength. But it's fake loyalty that tests your soul. Pay no mind to those who talk behind your back. It simply means you are 2 steps ahead.
And I could care less about my
Riot's beats, make it funky.
The sound bites, others gon' boil you with brown rice. Cop you with slice, cop violate black and brown rights. No Thanksgiving, it's Crown's chicken, it's crown life. They crown me nice, but they ain't considered the crown price. All black fitteds look like acidics and crown heights. See, round night, we drink royal bottles for crown type. Talk around town, I'm like custom model with brown mics. But Scotty pimpin', my city different, New York ride. We post different, y'all online, we on site. On the show and jaw, but me I'm more like Sean Price. My coffee black, Sean Dawn white. I'm piss excellence, just on spite. My city never sleeps, them bright lights, these bars high. So hard like I throw punchlines at bar fights. Them dead bars and them skinny jeans got y'all tight. Rappers biting bars, well what you do for a Klondike?
Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Madman walking through the stormy weather. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Madman walking through the stormy weather. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Kill the arena, run this thing, we stick together. Punch you in your face, rap. Fucking get your face slapped. Timberland boots, niggas better get they lace strapped. Do it for the streets, we do it for the street. Straight gutter, blow up mics, take cover. We don't fuck around. Alex in the underground, niggas fuck them down. Leaving niggas underground, struggles on the beat. My niggas got them bangers gone, pull back, hit them with the cat, piece banging.
shit gon' be wild. Let me take my coat off. I'm about to freestyle. Niggas get rude off. Let me turn my coat off. Hardest thing on stage, about to get thrown off. Now I'm in the crowd, nigga. Now, nigga, now. Turn them up and shut them down, nigga. Now niggas out. Load them up and bust them down, nigga. Foul niggas out. Dug them up and bust them down, nigga.
Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Madman walking through the stormy weather. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Madman walking through the stormy weather. Talk a minute, dirt with the heavy level. Kill the arena, run this thing, we stick together.
Alive, heavy heart, watching brothers fall apart. Street sweeping daily, nothing really scares me lately. Crack in the boost, returning to my roots.
Blended healing flowing through everything. The night holds the secrets, the streets keep the time. Every broken story turns into
Had to go through some things to get here. You had to push through. Keep your head up, keep moving, keep believing when you felt things didn't add up. And I'm telling you now, people see it. People are proud of you. People respect how you handled what you went through. Some of them are even you didn't just survive that season. You changed in it. You built strength, patience, and grace. That's why your life is different now. That's why doors are still. Welcome to a space where you can finally breathe and feel safe. Welcome to Blended Healing. Here we honor every piece of your journey and walk with you toward balance, clarity, and peace. Welcome to Blended Healing.
scar mending, every soul alive. The city keeps beating loud.
Chapter 3, Mirrors. By the third Saturday, the drive to the community center felt different. The route didn't change, but she did. The first week she sat in the parking lot wondering if she should leave before anyone noticed that she arrived. The second week, she walked through the front doors hoping somebody could tell her what came next. This morning, she parked, turned off the engine, picked up her purse, and walked inside without negotiating it with herself. It was because she stopped expecting one conversation to solve everything. Somewhere over the past 2 weeks, she began to understand that healing was not a destination. It was something that happened, one honest conversation at a time. You see, the room greeted her with a familiar aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries. People who had barely spoken during the first workshop were now greeting each other by name. An older gentleman waved to a woman across the room and asked her how her interview had gone. A YN laughed as someone teased him about finally replacing the tie that he had worn 2 weeks in a row, and nobody's life had magically fallen back into place. The uncertainty was still there, but it no longer filled the room by itself. You see, encouragement had showed up and found a seat beside all of them. She poured herself a cup of coffee and looked around the room for an empty chair. Near the front sat an older woman with silver curls tucked neatly behind her ears. A paperback novel rested comfortably in her hands, and every few pages she would stop reading, glance around the room, and smiled at herself and return to the story. It wasn't just curiosity that made her watch people, it was appreciation. There was something calming about the way she noticed things that are going on around in her world. She learned that every person carried a story worth respecting. Is this seat taken? She asked. The woman looked up, folded the corner of her page instead of reaching for a bookmark, and smiled. I've been saving it for somebody interesting. They laughed, and then she sat down. Well, I hope I don't disappoint. The older woman said, I doubt you will. Her eyes drifted toward the book. You've been reading since I walked in. The older woman said, I've been reading this book for years. The same one? The very same one. She smiled. I don't think I could ever read the same book twice. Evelyn, the older woman, rested her hand gently across the cover of the before answering and said, That's because you're thinking the book stays the same. It doesn't. She tilted her head. The words don't change. No, Evelyn said, but the reader does. I first read this when I was 28 years old and convinced that I had my whole life planned. I read it again after I became a mother, then again after my children left home, and then after I retired. The story never changed. I did. And every time I opened it, a different sentence spoke to me because I wasn't the same woman anymore. She found herself thinking about the past few weeks. If she could somehow go back and relive the meeting where she lost her job, would she see it different now than she had that afternoon? She wasn't sure. But for the first time, she considered the possibility that the answer might one day be yes. The facilitator walked in and welcomed everybody, invited them to settle in. She said, Today's workshop is a little different. We're taking a break from resumes and interviews because before we rebuild careers, we need to understand the people we're becoming. Every relationship in your life has taught you something. Some taught you trust, others taught you disappointment. Some revealed your strengths, others exposed your fears. And whether the relationship lasted a lifetime or a season, it left something behind. Today, I want you to think less about who came into your life and more about what they left there. The room grew thoughtful. Nobody rushed to answer. The question didn't require a quick thinking, it required an honest thinking. The facilitator continued. I'd like each of you to spend the next 30 minutes talking with somebody that you recently met. Don't tell them what you do for a living. Don't tell them what you lost. Tell them something that you learned about yourself during the hardest season of your life. The older woman, Evelyn, turned toward her with a smile. Looks like we're partners. I was hoping that you would say that. They introduced themselves properly, and the conversation wandered naturally. Evelyn had taught high school English for 35 years before retiring. She talked about her students, the way some people spoke about their family. She remembered names, graduation speeches, funny classroom moments, and letters that she received years after students had moved away. Listening to her, it became obvious that teaching had never simply been a job. What did you enjoy most? I asked her. Evelyn smiled without hesitation. Watching people change. You mean your students? No, I mean people. She waited. Students came into my classroom believing stories about themselves that had been written by somebody else. One child believed she was not intelligent because somebody embarrassed her in an elementary school. Another believed he'd never be successful because nobody in his family had ever been. And by the time they reached me, they weren't arguing with facts anymore. They were defending stories. She leaned forward. So, what did you do? I asked questions, that's all. Evelyn smiled and laughed. Never underestimate a good question. Answers can end conversations, questions begin them. Those words settled somewhere deep inside of her for years. Evelyn continued. I had handed students a novel and asked them to tell me about the main character. By the time the chapter, they'd be amazed at how much their character had changed. And then I asked them why they believed fictional people were allowed to grow while they kept sentencing themselves to remain exactly the same. Whoa. She looked down in her coffee, and it suddenly occurred to her that she spent the last 2 weeks introducing herself with one sentence: I lost my job. Not that I'm enjoying gardening. I love old jazz records. I'm the friend everybody calls when they need advice. I make the best peach cobbler in my family. None of those things had disappeared, yet she allowed one event to become her entire introduction. Evelyn seemed to notice a thought crossing her face. She said, What are you thinking? She smiled quietly. That I think that I've been reading the wrong story about myself. Evelyn nodded as though she had been waiting for her to arrive at that answer all along. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, she admitted. You don't have to. No? The only chapter you can write is the one you're standing in. She looked around the room. Conversations had filled every corner. Strangers were sharing memories. People who had never met a month earlier were listening to one another with the same kind of attention usually reserved for old friends. It suddenly occurred to her that maybe this workshop had never been about finding another job. Maybe it had always been about finding the people who would help her become someone she couldn't have become by herself. Welcome to Blended Healing. Welcome to the Morning Inspiration. Welcome to Real Talk, the story, the hallway. Now you're looking in the mirror. I'll be right back after this.
Healing wasn't a destination. It was something that happened one honest conversation at a time.
It wasn't curiosity that made her watch people, it was appreciation. There was something calming about the way she noticed the world, as though she'd learned that every person carried a story worth respecting.
I've been thinking about the past few weeks. If I could relive that meeting where I lost my job, would I see it differently?
She wasn't sure, but for the first time she considered the possibility that the answer might one day be yes. Welcome, everyone. Please, settle in.
And that's the beauty of it. These skills you're learning here, they're not just for one job. They're transferable. They're the foundation for wherever you want to go next.
It suddenly occurred to me that maybe this workshop had never been about finding another job. Maybe it had always been about finding the people who would help me become someone I couldn't have become by myself.
Make it hot. Yeah. I know what this is, man. It's that real smooth player shit, man. Straight classic. Network shit. Make it in here.
Man, my whip is mad dirty. Let me take it to the car wash. Whoa, this place looks ran down.
Is this rolling with a shine? I need my car washed, bro. Oh, you can meet me at my house, vet. I'll see you soon.
Nah, I'm out.
My car is real dirty. That's not sexy at all. Oh, wait a minute. There is a sign for a car wash. Cool. I'm on it. Oh, heck no. You can't be serious.
Is this rolling with a shine? Yo, bro, I need my car washed and detailed. You can meet me at my job and wash it right there? Cool, see you there. I'm out.
Ooh, man. Now that's sexy. Y'all need to get with rolling with a shot.
Never speak low, my folks, that's how I feel with. Give and take all of the smoke, that's how I deal with. I heal with them as we seek to behold. Can't let nothing stop.
Gratitude to the sponsor of the show, Rolling with a Shine, mobile car wash and detailer, serving the greater Atlanta area and beyond. Make sure you check him out. He does fabulous job, man, a fabulous job. Thank you for entrusting me to get your message out as you sponsor this show today. Appreciation to you always, Rolling with a Shine. I salute you. You're doing the damn thing. Man, this dude cleans that car inside and out. The way you see it come out, it's like it just came back from the showroom. You feel me? Like I said, give young man a call. Give him a try. I'm telling you, you'll never turn back with Rolling with a Shine. Ashe, ashe. The morning session ended with the familiar scrape of folding chairs and the quiet hum of conversations beginning all over again. Some people made their way toward the coffee table, Others wandered into the hallway to stretch their legs or, take a call. Nobody seemed eager to leave, though. A few weeks ago, they all had been strangers carrying private disappointments through some front door. Now, there was an ease between them that hadn't existed before. No one had to pretend that they were cool, you know? There was comfort in being surrounded by people who understood what it felt like to have their life interrupted. She remained in her chair for another minute, watching the room slowly empty, and Evelyn gathered her book, slipped it carefully into her canvas bag, and smiled before joining another small group across the room. She noticed that Evelyn never rushed toward a conversation, yet people naturally found their way to her. Maybe that was what happened when someone spent a lifetime making other people feel seen. She looked down at the notebook resting in her lap. Across the top of the page were the words that she had written only moments ago. I think I've been reading the story wrong about myself. She traced that sentence lightly with her fingertip. It wasn't that the story had been a lie. She had lost her job. Her life had changed, but the fear is real. And the uncertainty had been real. But somewhere along the way, she had mistaken one chapter of the entire book. She stopped introducing herself as a woman with dreams, talents, friendships, memories, and possibilities. Instead, she had become the woman who lost her job without meaning to. She had handed one difficult season the authority to describe her whole life. She closed the notebook and stood. The hallway outside the meeting room was quieter than before, and sunlight poured through the windows, overlooking the community garden where volunteers were pulling weeds, watering flowers, and talking as they worked. Nothing about the morning seemed extraordinary. Yet she found herself noticing details she would have passed and walked by only weeks before. A butterfly landed on a purple cone flower before disappearing again. Wind stirred in the leaves of a young maple tree, and someone laughed somewhere around the corner, and another voice answered with laughter of its own. Life had been speaking all along, and she simply had not been listening. She wandered slowly toward the window, stopping for a moment to watch the garden below. Growth looked so ordinary from a distance. There was no fanfare, nobody clapping for you. When a seed finally broke through the soil, it happened real smooth, real quiet, one day at a time, until suddenly something beautiful was standing where nothing had seemed to be. Then she smiled at herself. Maybe people weren't all that different. As she turned to head back toward the refreshment table, she noticed an older gentleman sitting alone near the far end of the hallway. A second cup of coffee rested untouched across from him. For reasons she couldn't explain, she walked his direction. Ashe? All right.
The morning session ended.
Coffee?
Sure, let's go.
Good session.
Yeah, see you.
She remained in her chair for another minute, watching the room slowly empty. She was now watching Evelyn. Her book, slipped a carrot to her conversation, yet people naturally found their way.
So good to see you. You too, Evelyn.
Life had been speaking all along. She simply hadn't been listening. She wandered slowly toward the window, stopping for a moment to watch the garden below. There were no fireworks when a flower opened, no applause when a seed finally broke through the soil. It happened quietly, one day at a time, until suddenly something beautiful was standing where nothing had seemed to be.
Major announcement. Stay tuned for this.
Hey, hold up. Queen Cammy pulled up. Ghost Rider recap.
Yeah. She slide through like, what's up, fam? Let's run this back. Tap in with the city, yeah, she keep the folks on track. Got that love in her stride, got that truth in her tone. Breaking down the headlines like she's sitting on a throne. Community.
I am celebrating. Come and join me. I have a surprise for you. I am pleased to announce that I have joined the Chamaka Essentials family. Welcome to Chamaka Essentials West Coast. I enjoy Chamaka Essentials aromatherapy products, and I know you will too. You will now be able to purchase her aromatherapy products directly from me, Queen Cammy Royal Essentials, and other aromatherapy products are available. Drop me an email and arrange your product delivery options.
Herbs, energy, shine. Every drop, every scent. Chamaka Essentials, my heart's content. Chamaka Essentials, house of blessings, mind. Spray so dope, feel the magic present. Chamaka Essentials.
You better act like you know. Woo-ooh! What? Chamaka Essentials has extended its branch out to the West Coast, baby. California. That's what's up. Welcome, Queen Cammy, to the Chamaka Essentials family of products. You can reach out to her. For those of you who know Queen Cammy, she's been a staple on the YouTube streets and social media. Highly intelligent, beautiful woman, beautiful soul. And it's my pleasure to welcome her to the Chamaka Essentials family. So congratulations to you. And we'll be seeing more of you because of what? BLDS. Black ladies doing shit. You feeling me? All right. Salute to you, Cammy. Gratitude. Make sure that you tap into the website www.chamakaessentials.com. Ashe. Continuing from the last section. We're still in chapter 3, baby. And we're still looking in the mirror. Harold stood slowly, picked up both coffee cups and walked toward the trash can without saying anything. She watched him pause for a moment before dropping the untouched cup into the trash can. There was no ceremony in it, just a man who had learned after years of missing somebody that love does not always ask you to hold on the same way forever. Sometimes love asks you to remember with peace instead of pain. She stayed by the window after he walked away, looking out at the community garden where volunteers were still tending the soil. One woman was pulling weeds from around a row of flowers, careful not to disturb the roots. Another was tying a young vine to a wooden stake so it would have something steady to lean on while it grew. Watching them, right, she realized that growth was not always about forcing something to stand tall. Sometimes it was about giving it the right support until it could rise on its own. And when she returned to the meeting room, she noticed a young woman rushing in with an overstuffed backpack, a laptop tucked under one arm, and a coffee cup that looked like one wrong move and it would be disaster. She apologized to the volunteer near the door, laughed when the coffee splashed, and wiped it up with a napkin, and she kept moving like mess was just a part of her morning routine. There was something alive about her, though, something unfinished but unashamed. Later, during the afternoon break, they ended up standing near the same table. The young woman introduced herself as Maya, and she had owned a small design studio. She said it casually, like it had always been a part of her life. But a few minutes later, she admitted that she had started the business after being let go from a marketing job she thought was secure. She didn't make it sound easy. She talked about overdue bills, bad websites, late nights, fear, building something from a kitchen table before she had the money for an office. Then she smiled and said, I thought I was starting over, but really I was just starting from experience. That one sentence stayed with her. Starting over sounded empty. Starting from experience sounded like a foundation. For the rest of the afternoon, she found herself thinking about how many times she had treated her past like baggage when it could have been material. 22 years of work had taught her discipline, patience, organization, people skills, problem solving, and how to stay calm when everything around her was falling apart. She had been calling herself unemployed as if that word erased everything she knew how to do. Maya made her see it differently without trying to convince her of anything. She just simply lived like a woman who had taken what was left in her hands and decided to build from there. That was the thing about the mirrors. They do not, they do not always show you what was wrong. Sometimes they showed you what was possible. The next afternoon, Denise called and asked if she wanted to meet at the diner on Maple. Denise had worked with her for years, and under normal circumstances, that lunch would have turned into 2 hours of replaying the company closing, blaming people who they never heard of, and dragging old office stories back onto the table until they still needed attention. But this time, the conversation moved differently. They talked about sleeping better, eating at normal hours, and how strange it felt not to rush through lunch. Denise said she had started volunteering twice a week at the library because she got tired of the phone, waiting for the phone to ring. And she laughed when telling her story, but there was pride underneath it. When the waitress asked if they wanted dessert, Denise said, let me get that apple pie, without asking anyone's opinion. And she was tired of saving good moments for someday. That sounds simple, but it landed. They were not the same women who used to sit in the break room counting the minutes before they had to go back upstairs. Something had changed in both of them. Driving home, right? From the diner, she understood that some relationships do not end when circumstances change. Some grow because the circumstances change. Denise was no longer just an old coworker tied to a closed building. She was becoming a friend outside of the place that introduced him. Evelyn had shown her that people could reread their lives with new eyes. Harold had shown her that love could remain without keeping you stuck. Maya had shown her that experience could become a starting point instead of a weight. Denise had shown her that the right connection could survive a change in season because it was never just about convenience in the first place. That night she placed her keys on a kitchen counter, made some tea, and opened up the notebook at the table. And for a while she did not write. She just simply sat with the day. The apartment was quiet, but it did not feel empty. She turned to a clean page and wrote one word at the top: people. Underneath it, she wrote Evelyn's first name. Beside it, she wrote, one chapter is not the whole book. Then Harold, love can change shape and still remain. Then Maya, I'm not starting from nothing. Then Denise, some relationships grow when the people inside them do. And after that, she kept going. Her mother, her father, her first supervisor, the friend who disappeared when life was lifing, and the neighbor who checked on her after the company closed, the coffee cart owner, the little girl who waved at her in the park. One by one, names filled the page, and for the first time, she did not write what they did to her. She wrote what they left with her. You dig? Because by the time she finished, the page looked different from anything she had expected. It was not a list of wounds, it was a record of lessons. Some people had left encouragement, caution, laughter, wisdom. Some had taught her what she would never accept again. Some had taught her that I'm sorry, how the strong she could be when life gave her no choice but to stand. She sat back and stared at that notebook, realizing that relationships had never only been about who stayed and who left. They had been showing her pieces of herself the whole time. On her way to bed, she stopped in front of the hallway mirror, the same mirror that had been there since she moved in. But tonight, she looked at herself longer than usual. She still did not know where she would work next. She still did not have a perfect plan. Nothing about her future was suddenly clear. But she no longer looked for a woman waiting for somebody to tell her who she was. Every person she had met had handed her something, and now those pieces were beginning to form a picture. She touched the edge of the mirror and smiled softly and walked away with one thought sitting steady in her, right? Who maybe the people who enter our lives are not always meant to become the story. Sometimes they arrive to help us see the story we have been living all along. Ashe? All right. That ends chapter 3. The next time we meet will be at chapter 4. And I'm going to give you a little synopsis right after these messages.
Holistic Royalty by Kels, and the world gonna know. Holistic Royalty by Kels, for your holistic wellness. All my teas and tinctures are carefully crafted by me for you. I pride myself in creating quality products for holistic wellness. This is just the beginning of the process of where I select the finest of herbs and flowers to create my products.
Your health journey belongs to you. You live in this body. You decide how it's cared for. You choose what story comes next.
Holistic Royalty by Kels, nutritionist and yoga instructor. You can contact me at the links posted below.
Whosever story this is, it has just been morphing and morphing and changing, just like you do. Rest assured, when we come back for chapter 4, it's not about people anymore, it's about yourself. You have to face yourself. It's actually where the toughest part of this journey, this story will be. It's not about the workshop anymore. It's about what happens after you go home. It's more intimate, and the conflict isn't with other people anymore. It's with yourself. Ashe? All right. Before I get up out of here today, I don't know whose story this is, but stay encouraged, all right? Things are changing. We always are ever evolving. Always evolving. You're just going to a whole nother level. Stay encouraged. Fight the good fight. Follow your passions and bring them to fruition. Ashe and deep bow to each and every one of you. And before you get up out of here, let me recap for you what this is. Don't try to hold me. I gotta go. It's Monday and there's work to do. I got a job, baby. Don't you got a job? You got a job. Go to work. Go to work. Get the job. Go to work. Stop trying to hold me. I gotta go. I gotta go. All right? All right. Be well, stay safe. Ashe and deep bow to each and every one of you. And thank you for hanging out with a chick. Peace.
After years of missing someone, you learn that love doesn't always ask you to hold on the same way forever.
Sorry, excuse me? No problem, go ahead. Oh, whoops, coffee on my sleeve. Messy morning, but I got this. Hi, I'm Maya. I own a small design studio. I had overdue bills, bad websites, late nights, and fear. I built it from my kitchen table before I had an office. I thought I was starting over, but really I was starting from experience. What Maya said, that one sentence stayed with her. Starting over sounded empty. Starting from experience sounded like a foundation. Hello? Hey, it's Denise.
Long time.
Denise, wow, how have you been?
Good, just thinking about the old crew.
Me too. We could talk for hours. I'm sleeping better and eating at normal hours.
That's great, Denise.
It feels so strange not rushing through lunch. I started volunteering at the library twice a week. I got tired of waiting for the phone to ring. Good for you. I'm so glad we could meet up. Me too. You look great. I've been sleeping better, eating at normal hours. That's wonderful. I started volunteering at the library. It beats waiting for the phone to ring. Denise, you know, you're not just an old coworker to me anymore. You're becoming a real friend outside of work. That means so much. I feel the same way. To new beginnings. To us. Some relationships don't end when circumstances change. Some grow because the circumstances changed. I'm glad ours has.
Evelyn had shown her that people could reread their lives with new eyes.
She showed me that love could remain without keeping you stuck.
That's beautiful, Harold.
It taught me to embrace change without losing what's important.
Maya had shown her that experience could become a starting point instead of a weight. That's beautiful. I'm glad you see it that way now. It's thanks to her. It changed everything. I'm so happy. I realized our connection survived every change. How did you know it would? Because it was never about convenience. It was something deeper. Exactly. It was real. By the time she finished, the page looked different from anything she had expected. It was not a list of wounds. It was a record of lessons. Some people had left encouragement, some had left caution, some had left laughter, some had left wisdom. Some had taught her what she would never accept again. Some had taught her how strong she could be when life gave her no choice but to stand. Relationships had never only been about who stayed and who left. They had been showing me pieces of myself the whole time.
Hope you received what you needed today. Thank you for coming by and spending some time with me. Come back soon. Ashe and deep bow to you.